Alright guys, so since we have the actual Halloween event, rerun thing, extravaganza, whatever you really want to call it, we have that coming up. I wanted to do a video talking about should you summon, and I can't say this with a straight face, should you summon onto the Halloween rerun banner, and absolutely not. I mean, if you're looking at this banner and you're like, ooh, you know, Cleopatra looking kinda tempting, or maybe I should go on this banner to try to grab myself some copies of Tamamo Cat, you gotta be a fool, alright? Don't be looking at this banner. There are some strong units on here, like I think Nitocris is very strong. I think Vlad is a very good unit, right? Especially after all of his buffs. But this is not a banner you want to be spending your Saint Quartz on, right? At the very worst, you should be saving your Saint Quartz for, say, December when Scotty comes back, for Koyenskaya returning, for New Year's, or new Koyenskaya, who is a very strong Buster Looper, or even Jacques de Molay and Zenobia, who are going to be on the actual new Halloween banner. Like, there are just numerous other servants this year that are coming out that are a lot better and worth your Saint Quartz. I mean, even Izumo is going to be coming out later on this year, and I think she's really, really strong. I mean, there are just a lot of different servants that we're going to be getting that are more worth your Saint Quartz. And especially, even if you're not going for like the meta guys, maybe you already do have Koyenskaya, maybe you already do have Scotty, right? You don't exactly need them. There are still just better servants to be going for, right? So let's just go ahead and start talking about some of these dudes. So first and foremost, let's talk about Cleopatra. And you guys know, if you've seen any of my reviews on Cleopatra, anytime I talk about this unit, there are two versions of Cleopatra. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that there is Cleopatra with Imperial Privilege up, and there is Cleopatra who whiffs her Imperial Privilege. Now, yes, there are ways to guarantee that for yourself with, say, for instance, Ozzy's battery skill, right? You can guarantee everybody's Imperial Privilege and everything like that. But let's say you're not going to be using a weird whack team comp like that because you're a normal person and you're going to do like double Koyenskaya with your Cleopatra. If she whiffs that Imperial Privilege, she is not a real unit. She does not exist. She is not in the game. She is an absolute fraud. If she does get her Imperial Privilege up, she actually does look pretty nice. But keep in mind, that is because it is like a 44% attack and defense buff. It makes her way tankier. She could take a lot more hits, and she actually does real damage. My Cleopatra is even NP2, and even without the Imperial Privilege buff, she does no damage at all whatsoever. And that's even with the Buster buff she's able to get on her NP. So, you know, just save yourself the heartache and don't go for this unit. I know, you know, she's a limited unit over here. You can see she got the whole limited tag over here, but that is not enough of a reason to go for this unit unless you are just a huge fan of like the Danganronpa art style. You really like Cleopatra in particular, or you are just trying to collect every servant in the game. Unless you're like one of those whales that's trying to do all that, there's really no reason to go for this unit, right? Vlad is actually a really solid guy, right? Vlad, I could see some people being tempted to go for because as an arts DPS, this guy's actually good, right? He provides his own stars on his own NP. He does more damage the more he's in the fight because he, you know, lowers enemies' arts reduction with, you know, his own NP as well. His buffs are just good. He's got strong attack, strong defense. He can get the double guts, although with how the thing works with it only being, with it only being one turn, you know, you're probably not going to get the full value to the double guts, but he still does have the guts. The guy's just strong. I mean, he has a decent enough battery, can also take away the enemy's battery, right, by removing one of their gauge. He's just strong. He's just a good guy all around. In my opinion, I think like him a little bit more than Galatea before she gets her buff. Once she gets her new buff, I think things kind of swap back again, but that's, you know, what I mean. Like, I do kind of like them both as these DPS berserkers. Obviously, I think Vlad is a bit more DPS focused, whereas Galatea is a better like sustain unit, right? Because of her healing every single turn, debuff cleansing. She has like the survivability with, you know, the double defense, all that good stuff. And then she gets her buff that lets her refund even on her own Buster cards, right? So she's really good at sustain and might not do as much damage, right? But even as good as I think he is and all this praise that I am giving him, I do not think he is worth going for, right? This is a guy that you'll be able to pick up on any free 5-star ticket whenever it does come around, or you might just randomly get him on any banner, right? I just do not think it is worth spending your Saint Quartz on like a not limited unit. He's, as good as he is, right? He's just not a guy that you really want to be throwing your Saint Quartz on, because you probably will at some point in the game's lifespan get him randomly on a banner or something like that, or you can just pick him up with a free 5-star ticket or something along those lines. The same thing can be said for Osaka Behime, although I would say for your box, probably not as good. Osaka Behime is one of those units, and some people aren't going to like this, that I kind of view like say, Tamamo, the art support one, that they are really nice to have, but even if you do get them, you might not use them all that often, right? Because they're just nice extra supports that you can get some value out of. But at the end of the day, in like the Tamamo example, you're probably just going to stick with, say, the double Castoria setup, or for Osaka Behime, even though technically you can use her as both a quick or buster support, you probably are just going to be bringing people like Merlin or Koyenskaya, or you're even just going to bring the regular normal Scotty because they're just going to be more effective, right? Like, that's why they're the limited servants that everybody is chasing after, and that's why you don't have people going crazy for Osaka Behime. She does at least have a little bit more value because you can use her as a solo unit, right? Because you can stack a lot of the defensive damage cut, right? That is kind of nice, but I don't think it's enough for you to just warrant going on this banner to summon for her, right? Again, like Vlad, you can see she's not story locked, she's not limited. You can just let her come to you at some point or snag her on like a free 5-star ticket, right? Because again, I think there are going to be better servants that are more worth going for, that are more rare and that are better, that you probably should be summoning for later on this year. Then we have the 4 stars. Now, I'm a little partial to Vlad Extra because when I first started playing the game, ironically enough, I know I'm making this video being like, hey, don't summon for Cleopatra, but ironically enough, this was like the first main banner that came out, was this Halloween when I started my current NA account because I lost my other one. And I went really hard on this banner because it was just like, oh, it's the most recent 5-star servant. Let me go on this. And I didn't get Cleopatra, but I did get like 4 or 5 Vlads over here. And so for me, being a new player, right, he was just like, oh, he does a lot of damage because he got big NP levels, right? So he's able to do a lot of damage. And I don't think he's the worst unit ever, but he's really straightforward, right? It's like, you could drop some stars, you could do some decent enough damage with him, but like, I don't really think it's worth going for. I don't think he's like that insane. Like, in all reality, he probably would slot in as like the definition of a very mid unit. He's got just the bare necessities to make him like not garbage, I would say, but I have a higher opinion of him that I'm trying to curb because I know that I have been using this guy at like NP5 for like what, the last 3-4 years or something. So I know that my expectations for him are a little bit higher than probably the norm. Elizabeth over here, I think, again, just another very mid unit, like not super great, not super stellar or anything along those lines. Don't go on this for Liz. The craziest thing that you could do with her is that she double buffs females for attack, so that can be kind of cool, but we are no longer in like 2017 where like that is kind of a viable thing that you could be. Actually, I don't even think she had that buff in 2017, but you get what I'm saying. Like, this is not, you know, the first meta of FGO that's even back when like Merlin was a thing where like you might be able to use units like that. That's just not going to cut it anymore. That's just not good enough, right? You're not going to be bringing Liz specifically for that unless you just really like Liz, in which case, you know, have at it, Haas. Go enjoy using your Liz over there. Nitocris, I think, is one of the few units that maybe you could try to justify going for, because Nitocris does have a lot of use as just a good AoE wave clear, because she has a big battery. You know, she can do, I don't want to say insane damage, but decent enough if you get her at higher NP compies, but you could still get some value in using her as a wave clear because she has really high insta-kill chance, right, that you can actually kind of rely on in some scenarios, right? And so it's like you might be able to justify going for her for that, but you probably will be able to find just other team comps to use that don't involve Nitocris. She's like a convenient unit, if that makes sense. Like, she's very convenient to have, but she'll probably be able to clear a lot of those nodes without Nitocris, although it might be a little bit more annoying. Maybe you have to use like a face card here and there if it's like some 90+ node, but I would say she's definitely a very convenient servant to have. But I would just wait for the next 4-star ticket and then maybe pick her up then, which I believe we are getting in like, what, 4 or 5 months, something along those lines. I know Zenobia is on the 4-star ticket that we get to pick, so I know it's going to be a little bit from now, but if you really want to, just pick her up with that. Yanqing is not super great. I mean, you could do some nice crits with this dude. I mean, he's pretty much just like standard .jpeg assassin, right? Gens a lot of stars, does crits, and he's quick, which doesn't really help his case out all that much. Camilla over here, I mean, in year 1, she was nice because, you know, she has the anti-female damage mod, but this unit definitely needs a lot more help before we're going to justify summoning for her. Same thing for Wu over here. Just wait for next year and get the swimsuit version of Wu. She's definitely a lot better. She gives people the undead damage mod and everything like that, so you could play around with her a lot more when the summer version comes out. This Wu, it ain't it, Chief. Ibaraki, kind of mid, again, definition of like a mid DPS unit. I mean, And when I say mid, I'm not saying that to be mean, but I'm just saying, like, they have the bare essentials to be usable, but they're not any better than that, right? Like, you can use them, get some results. They probably can clear, like, say for like Vlad over here and her, because I called them both mid. You could probably beat some bosses with them. I don't doubt that. You could see some success with them, but you're probably not going to use them over other units that you're already using that are already getting those results. Same thing for Penthesilia, same thing for Tamamocat over here. Although, I believe Tamamocat, because of the command code and the buff they gave her, I believe I've seen some people use her for quick farming, but that seems like really big copium. I'm not gonna lie. You definitely have a lot better units you could be using. And these are the 3 stars. I mean, everybody should have these guys. They're on the friend point gacha and everything. So yeah, don't summon on this banner. I think you definitely have other better units to be going for. Wait for the actual proper event to start and go for Jacques Delmole or Zenobia when she comes out on the banner. Like, go summon for those people, not all these guys. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. I guess I could have touched up on the different CEs over here, which I know you guys, I know Coomers are going to be watching this, going to be like, oh, I could go for Dangerous Beast or the Nightingale CE. Come on, brothers, you got to be strong. You can't be spending your Sanquits over here for the CEs, even though, there was like a recent CE that I was summoning specifically for. I was like down bad for it. I don't remember what it was. Somebody could probably remind me in the comments. I'd be like, I was there in the stream. I know which one it was. But with that, oh, it was the Nero one for Nero Fest. Yeah, okay, look, maybe I shouldn't be saying don't go for the CEs. You know, if you want to go for the CEs, go ahead. I'll give you guys the passes one time. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys on the flippity floppity.